Taking out the trash is pretty much the definition of a mundane chore. But imagine for a second that your trash can is actually a multi-ton steel skip bin, and your driveway is an active, heavily congested industrial refinery. Suddenly, this routine job becomes a high-stakes mission. It's a highly choreographed operation, and it's governed by vital yet almost entirely invisible safety protocols. So today, we're going to extract the core data from a highly detailed industrial safety document to show you exactly how heavy industry prevents disaster on a daily basis.
Okay, let's just jump straight into this mission briefing. We're going to walk through the 5 key phases of a shift. 1. The stakes and rules. 2. Preparation and pre-start. 3. Safe collection and transit. 4. The landfill protocol. And 5. Scrapyards and safe return.
Section 1. The stakes and rules.
Listen, before that engine even turns over, we have to look at the math. Every single action on site relies on a risk assessment matrix. It maps the consequence of an event, ranging from trivial, which needs no treatment, all the way up to catastrophic, which means fatal, against the likelihood of it actually happening, from rare to almost certain. Every action an operator takes is calculated on a matrix exactly like this one to figure out its true level of danger.
And the absolute key here is understanding the extremes. On one side, you have critical risk, meaning work must halt immediately and absolutely must not proceed under any circumstances. On the flip side is low risk, which is considered an acceptable residual risk as long as your safety controls are maintained. Our ultimate goal today, and this is guided by the hierarchy of controls, where we try to eliminate, substitute, or engineer our way out of danger, is to take those critical and high risks and force them down to a safe, low level.
Section 2. Preparation and pre-start.
Now this mission actually kicks off way before the driver even touches the truck's door handle. First, they've got to armor up. This rapid-fire list right here shows the minimum mandatory personal protective equipment, or PPE. We're talking steel-capped boots, a high-visibility vest or shirt, a hard hat, and safety glasses. Oh, and here's a super specific detail from our source. Operators must wear heavy-duty leather gloves whenever they're handling lifting chains. It's a non-negotiable physical defense.
But, wearing the right gear, that's really just step 1. Operating a faulty truck or tossing the keys to an unlicensed operator carries a catastrophic high risk of disaster. But simply verifying that the driver actually holds a valid heavy rigid license, which is a strict legal requirement for a truck of this size, and conducting a documented pre-start check of the hydraulics, locking arms, and brakes, doing that instantly neutralizes that high risk, bringing it securely down into the low-risk category.
Section 3. Safe collection and transit.
All right, the truck is rolling out into a busy, highly unpredictable refinery, and suddenly you are faced with a single, uncompromising number: 5. That is a strict maximum speed limit of 5 kilometers per hour in pedestrian zones. I know it's an absolute crawl, but you have to remember, a fully loaded skip truck has massive blind spots and terrifying kinetic energy. Enforcing this limit is the primary defense against fatal collisions.
And that extreme caution, it is absolutely vital at rail crossings. Industrial refinery trains can approach completely silently and way faster than you'd expect. So the protocol dictates 3 life-saving steps. Step 1, a mandatory complete stop at all crossings. Step 2, a visual check in both directions. And Step 3, the truck must cross perpendicular to the rails, never ever at an angle. Doing it this way ensures the truck doesn't lose stability and prevents that massive heavy bin from snagging on the rail infrastructure.
Now, surviving the drive is really just half the battle. Actually collecting the bin introduces a whole new set of physical threats. The high risk here is the bin shifting, contents falling, or the truck being totally overloaded. To bring this down to a low risk, operators have to establish a strict 5-meter exclusion zone. Literally no one is allowed within 5 meters during the lifting process. Plus, the operator must never ever guess a bin's weight. Bins filled with fly ash or dense materials can easily exceed the truck's capacity, which could snap the lifting chains or just flip the vehicle entirely. No guessing allowed.
Section 4. The landfill protocol.
Descending into the site landfill introduces a whole new level of chaos, mainly massive, blind, earth-moving machinery. Because of this, the absolute, non-negotiable rule before entering or exiting is Channel 9. Every single person must radio in on this specific two-way frequency to announce that their top-heavy skip truck is entering the space. It provides absolutely vital situational awareness to every dozer and compactor driver operating in the area.
Because, let's be real, a landfill is a visceral, incredibly hostile environment. Operators have to constantly watch out for tip-overs on soft or waterlogged ground. And remember, hoisting a loaded bin significantly raises the truck's center of gravity.
They also face potential exposure to invisible landfill gases, unexpected chemicals, or toxic leachate. That is exactly why operators are instructed to stay inside their cab as much as possible. And of course, there's the constant looming threat of collisions with that active heavy machinery we just talked about.
And once you're actually in position, you don't just hit a button and dump the bin. Oh no, you must establish a highly precise tipping exclusion zone. It's actually a fascinating mathematical formula, a minimum radius equal to the bin's height plus an extra 1.5 meters mapped out around the entire tipping arc. This exact geometry is required just to empty the trash safely without it potentially crushing someone if the load happens to slip.
Section 5. Scrapyards and Safe Return.
Now, sometimes the load isn't just regular dirt or waste. It's industrial scrap metal. I really want you to imagine tipping heavy, jagged steel out of a massive bin. The threats here are severe. First, there's a huge risk of puncturing the truck's tires on sharp debris, which means operators must stick strictly to designated access tracks. But more terrifyingly, scrap metal can unpredictably spring, roll, or suddenly shift when it's released. This is exactly why operators absolutely must stay safely inside the cab during the tipping cycle, and why those thick leather gloves we mentioned earlier are strictly required if they ever do need to handle the bins physically.
But as the shift finally nears its end, the biggest hazard isn't environmental at all. It's biological: operator fatigue. Driving a massive skip truck while exhausted is an extreme high risk that can so easily cause a catastrophic error. The control measure here relies almost entirely on the operator's personal integrity, strict fatigue management, and a self-reporting procedure. By actually observing mandatory rest breaks and speaking up about illness or exhaustion, this catastrophic risk is effectively managed down to a low risk.
And this brings everything squarely back to the human element. Check out this quote, pulled straight from the Work Health and Safety Mines regulations. This is the core, uncompromising philosophy of the entire operation. No worker to perform work while impaired by fatigue, illness, or substance use. Honestly, it doesn't matter how well-maintained the truck is, or how perfect those mathematical exclusion zones are. If the human operator is impaired, the entire safety net totally collapses.
Which leaves us with a pretty compelling thought to wrap things up. Every single time that skip bin truck safely navigates a rail crossing or correctly calculates a tipping zone, it's a major victory for these rigorous, hidden systems. So, if heavy industry absolutely relies on these exact, invisible protocols to prevent disaster during a simple trash run, what routine risks are you ignoring in your own daily missions? Next time you see a heavy truck out on the road, remember the invisible shield of protocols working overtime to keep everyone safe.